People who have actually had sex with a step relative. What was the aftermath? I knew a girl in high school whose best friend's mom married her dad. Then the best friend and dad were caught and it had been a whole thing. Both of them were really gross. So her friend, the one with the mom, your friend's dad. So he both the mother and daughter. Technically my step-cousin. My mom married his uncle. We met as adults and hooked up quickly after meeting. We're married now. Whenever someone asks how we met, I just tell them he's my cousin. My parents used to be step-siblings. My mom was 6. Dad was 12 when my mom's mom married my dad's dad. My dad lived with his mom primarily though, and they never spent much time together. I think my grandparents were married for 6 to 10 years or something like that before they divorced. When my mom was about 20, Dad was 26 and he asked her out. They've been married for like 35 years. The complicated bit is that I have an aunt that was born from the marriage of my maternal grandmother and paternal grandfather. So my parents share a half-sibling, but they're no longer step-siblings. Not me, but my coworker got his nephew a job with our company to help straighten him out and let him live with him. A few months later he starts talking about how he's going to be a granddad because his 18-year-old daughter who lives at home is pregnant. We later found out his nephew was banging his daughter on the regular and was the father of his grandbaby. Nephew got fired for failing a drug test not even 6 months into the gig. Pretty sure he ended up getting kicked out of their house too shortly thereafter. My uncle married his stepsister when they were teenagers. They had 4 kids together and divorced. Years later my dad married her. She was his stepsister and younger brother's ex-wife. My cousins became my step-siblings. Uncle lived around the corner. Her kids did not like being told what to do by their uncle. My dad always felt like she treated me and my sister poorly. My grandma threatened to disown my dad several times for marrying her. They were together for about a year before stepmom couldn't handle dad's drinking anymore and he said he was sick of her kids disrespecting him and her not treating my sister and me good enough. We moved out but they stayed married for over 10 years. Cousin, step-siblings weren't as close with us after that and my sister and I were kinda considered black sheep of the family. Too bad. I liked being around my cousins so much and I thought my aunt, stepmom was cool. I was like 10 to 11 at the time though. I can't imagine what those two were thinking when they got together in the first place. Whole thing was confusing to say the least. Confusing is putting it lightly. I blacked out like 2 sentences in. Alright. Here we go. So, I meet girl, meet her mom and dad. The girl and I have sex and date for several months. She gets pregnant. I join the Navy to support my new family. I leave for boot camp and she starts sleeping around. So we break up. During this time her mom goes crazy. Her dad leaves her mom. He then starts seeing my mom. They get married. Boom. My ex is now my stepsister and my son is now my nephew. Welcome to West Virginia, y'all. My friend did it and now everyone calls him step-bro at school. Not me but someone I was friends we'll call her Sarah within high school. Sarah's half-brother we'll call him Alan passed away. And everyone gathered for the funeral. This turned into an extensive family reunion. Sarah found herself interested in the half-brother's other half-brother we'll call him Dan. Dan and Alan shared the same mom, while Alan and Sarah shared the same dad. Sarah and Dan were not related. But she got a lot of shit for it. She ended up moving out of the state to be with him, and has happily been with him for 7 years now. My sister gave our stepbrother a blowjob on one end of our wrap-around couch, with our grandmother asleep on the other end. Spoiler alert. She woke up. We had some up family dynamics. Hey, I think I've seen this one before. Let's just slip right to relatives. Caught my cousins kissing. I quietly snuck out to let them do whatever horrors they intended. Never mentioned it not once. Well, apart from the odd slight remark every now and again. It was just a quick fling, I believe. I had a coworker who told us unashamedly that she had sex with a distant cousin. Another coworker asked like a 4th cousin of something. She said no, he was my first cousin, but lived 2 states away. My dad was banging my mom's sister and I have a couple of cousin brothers to show for it. Yes, Florida. The outcome was dramatic and incredibly tragic. I had a colleague once who drunkenly confessed to sleeping with her stepbrother. Eventually it developed into a serious relationship. Her parents got to know and desperately tried to get them to break up. Colleague ended up dating her stepbro in secret. It's an open secret in the office at this point. Awkward. Because the stepdad was also in upper management. Anyway, her parents find out again and try to get them to break up a second time. It all gets rather public and ugly and quite embarrassing for her mom and stepdad, who are now senior figures in the industry running their own company. Colleague tells us that she's been given ultimatums from her mum. Doesn't describe what they are. Suddenly, she stops showing up to work and emails her resignation. She tells HR that she's moving to the US to find some peace. Colleague also texts some folk at work to tell them that she's had enough of the drama and moving away. A few weeks pass and there's no news from her until her step-bro boyfriend starts contacting all her work friends. I wasn't contacted, but some of my teammates were. Stepbro is desperately trying to get in touch with her. She's broken up with him via text. He wants to know if anyone's heard from her. He doesn't believe that she now lives in the US and that she'd go without telling him. Everyone writes him off as a guy who couldn't handle the rejection. Until he goes to the police and files a missing persons case. Police actually made a few inquiries to everyone's surprise. It doesn't happen often because they usually DGAF. This is still a developing country after all. In the end, the cops write the stepbro off as a lovesick loon and everything settles down. For a while at least. Stepbro has gone crazy, now claiming that he thinks something bad happened to her. Says he's fallen out with his parents over it. No one at work wants to get involved in this family drama, especially since the parents are important people. Things die down again. Until they don't. Fast forward 2 years and no one's heard from our colleague. Until the cops come calling. They've arrested her mom's chauffeur on an unrelated charge and he confesses to murdering our colleague. Even leads them to the body. He doesn't however reveal a motive. He must have been stalking her, think the police, until they investigate further. Our colleague never went to the US. Turns out the emails she sent weren't from her either. They were sent after her death. The texts, the emails and the breakup were all from her mom. She covered her tracks after she orchestrated the murder of her own daughter. All because she wouldn't stop dating her stepbrother and was going to marry him. Sorry for the bad grammar. English isn't my first language. I'd forgotten some details. The colleague's mum always had a strained relationship with her daughter. At social events she often claimed to be her sister. Through everyone knew it wasn't true. I think Biodad was also involved in the murder somehow. The whole thing was one giant clusterfuck. My mother passed away, so my brother and I moved in with my father, stepmother and stepsister. My parents had a brutal divorce, so we were not very close to them. In fact, we didn't see my father for years. Fast forward, my brother, stepsister, stepbrother and I would play lights out as teenagers. Basically, turn the lights out and start beating the shit out of each other with pillows or anything we could find. I know it sounds like a sick game. Later, when we all played and wondered why I was not getting my hair pulled or punched, I turned on the lights and found my brother and stepsister making out. We stopped playing lights out, but my brother and sister were secretly seeing each until my stepmother found out. A guy the first knew, while we were both early teens, had a huge crush on a girl who was a close friend of his family. His parents were church friends with her parents. Then, her parents both died in a car accident, and his parents had agreed to adopt her if such an incident were ever to occur. His mom was kinda weird and made him start calling her sister, and none of his family knew he was head over heels in love with this girl, or if they suspected a crush they pretended not to. What they for sure didn't know, because his parents would have disowned him, was that by high school, they were secretly banging almost every night. I lost touch with them during high school, and I want to know what ended up happening with them so badly it drives me crazy to think about.